This is the story of a married couple, David Gifford Croll and Winifred Croll, a doctor and a nurse who both served during World War I.
It was against army regulations for nurses to be married. They could be widow or single, and we can't find any evidence that it was ever questioned.
State Library holds two collections, Winnie's collection, Gifford's collection. Today, the great niece of Gifford Croll, Helen, has come in to look at the collection for the first time.
I've been interested in family history, so I've collected a lot of photographs and information about the history of his early life. When his parents first came from Scotland, they came to Mercury Island. Later they moved to Wahiki Island to Arran Bay. Fairly isolated now, and it would have been very isolated at that time. I believe that's where he obtained his love of boats. 3 boys, Gifford was the oldest, and Nell is the girl. They seem to have led an idyllic childhood there. I believe that Mary came into some money, and so they moved to Sydney in about 1902. And so when she came into money, they were probably thinking of the boys' education. And as we know, Gifford went on to the Sydney University to do medicine and surgery. He joined the Children's Hospital in Brisbane in 1911 and established the hospital's pathology department. So they're the boys going off to war.
Gifford disembarked in Cairo, and the 2nd Light Horse Field Ambulance established itself there, but was also sent to Gallipoli, administering to the wounded there. War Diary, 12th of June 1915, Gallipoli. We are a funny looking lot of scarecrows now for a light horse brigade, but the spirit of the men is marvellous. They seem to think no more of death than of going to sleep. During a Turkish attack, if a man can get up on top of the trenches where he is fully exposed but can fire well, he is happy as a king, and nothing but a bullet will shift him. Then the 2nd Light Horse re-established themselves back in Cairo at the end of the campaign, and then proceeded across the desert with the Light Horse troops as they campaigned across the Sinai. A lot of his records are just the meat and potatoes of making sure men and horses are fed, wounded are transported, he has enough supplies, he has enough medical supplies, not just food and water. War Diary, 24th of April 1916, Romani. We have men and horses, natives and camels all crowded together into the smallest possible space, and an outbreak of disease is sure to follow. If we had any material for building kitchen and sanitary conveniences, something might be done. I desire to bring to your attention the conduct and devotion to duty of Lieutenant Colonel D.G. Croll, commanding the 2nd Light Horse Field Ambulance. The work done by his unit during the operation from August the 4th to the 12th was extremely admirable. On repeated occasions, this unit was under heavy fire. In one case, carrying on the collection of wounded in front of our own firing line. Lieutenant Colonel Croll was directly responsible for the fine work done by his unit, and I cannot speak too highly of the state of efficiency to which he has brought his unit. And for all of that, he received a CBE for his distinguished service in the war.
So while we were researching his collections, particularly his photographs, we noticed lovely photos of World War I nurses and tried to figure out why they're in his collection. While we're also working through his diaries, which were kept in parts, the transcriber came to me and said, there's a love story in here. He has met up with Winnie. So when the story was revealed, it's a story of him landing in Egypt and having time to ring up his wife and see if she's available. But she's gone off to a rest home more than an hour away. So he grabs a taxi, he has to walk the last mile in the heat. She'd gone shopping, but she'd also gone to leave a present at the ship for her husband. And then he goes back to the boat, only to find that the boat's not leaving for another 5 hours. So he thought, I'll have another go. So again, he goes back all this way and finds her at home. Those little stories that come out of the collections just bring the personal stories out of a war.
We're also really lucky to have a photograph collection of Winnie. We were just tipped off by a colleague at the ABC that there was an auction soon happening, and one of the lots was a collection of 180 photographs taken by a Queensland nurse. Just by chance, a couple of the photos they'd uploaded to the website, and we thought, oh, we've seen those before. And we had. We'd seen them in Colonel Croll's collection, and we thought, oh my goodness, it must be Winnie's photos. It's rare to have any photographic evidence of a husband and wife together during the war, particularly both in service. Winnie served at the 1st Australian General Hospital in Cairo in the company of a number of other Queensland nurses, one of whom was her good friend Constance Keys. As nurses together, they would have toured around on their rare days off. So Winnie would have nursed wounded from Gallipoli. A lot of Winnie's photos are touristy photos, street scenes of Cairo, on the train station, in the park.
And she's written stories on the back of a lot of them. There's all sorts of interesting things that they did, like swimming out in the bay, being tied to a life raft, because not many of them could swim at the time.
Unfortunately, she contracted pleurisy, and her service was quite short and she was sent home. Winnie's uniform exists as well in the wonderful collection of Marganya House Museum.
The uniform itself, we believe, is unique in Australia because it's the first pattern that was used for nurses. The buttons are sterling silver, as is the badge. The bands show that she was a sister, a nursing sister. It's wool serge, and the cape, otherwise known as a tippet, was used as a ward cape. This badge is the service badge, Australian Nursing Service, and this is the unit to which she would have been attached. We are also fortunate to have the original bonnet, which is very rare because the nurses hated them, considered them old-fashioned. They tried to lose them at every opportunity, so not many survive. We've only heard of one other. We'd be very interested to hear of any more.
They had no children, but were very involved in their community. Winnie, after the war, became a Girl Guide Commissioner, and Gifford was very involved with the Scouts, particularly the Sea Scouts. After the war, he became a general practitioner in Sherwood, where he was a general practitioner for 35 years. He also served in World War II. 1941 to 1942, he was the commanding officer of the 112th Australian General Hospital. 1942 to 1944, he was commanding officer of the 101st Australian Convalescent Depot. And both of them were very involved in their RSL, and in fact bequeathed their house to the RSL.
We haven't found an actual photo of the house that became the RSL, but this is an aerial photo that shows the house. This house in Sherwood was sold, and the RSL bought land in Corinda, which is now the Croll Memorial Centre still. One of the things that he's remembered now by is that he planted a tree in the Arboretum on the day that that was established. And people feel a very strong attachment to the Arboretum. It's a nice way that he's remembered because his second house was absolutely adjacent to the Arboretum, and Mrs. Croll lived there after his death until her own death.
Between all those lovely collections, we've pieced together a rather wonderful story of wartime service.
It's so exciting, really very exciting. It brings it all to life and brings it so much closer.